Hey everyone, I'm Jessica Kramer with MRC-TV. Today we're speaking with Heritage Senior Research Fellow Jay Green, who is the author of a new report that takes a look at universities and their obsession with diversity. Jay, thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me on.
So first, can you tell us a little bit about the investigation that you conducted looking into these schools and what prompted this study?
Sure. Well, what we did is we looked at the diversity stats at 65 universities. Those are the members of the Power 5 athletic conferences. And we were motivated to do it because I think everyone has a sense that universities are devoting a lot of staff and resources to diversity goals, but it's really nice to quantify exactly how big that is so that we can talk about it more productively. And when we looked at it and measured it systematically, we found that our initial impression was confirmed that universities, in fact, are devoting a very large number of people and resources to promoting a very particular political agenda.
Yeah, well, the one thing that I really loved about this study was that you were looking at schools that probably most kids go to. And this report shows that paid positions that focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion are making up a sizable portion of college staff. Some universities even have more DEI positions than history professors. Can you tell us the implications of that?
Sure. I mean, it's a perfectly legitimate goal for universities to want to be welcoming and inclusive to students from many diverse backgrounds. The question is, how much are they going to devote to that one goal relative to all the other legitimate goals they have? And also, how effectively are they achieving that goal? And what our study finds is that they're devoting far more resources to this one goal than to other things like, let's say, teaching history. And also, they're not achieving the goal very well, because when we look at student surveys, we find that campuses with larger DEI staff or diversity, equity, and inclusion staff don't have better campus climates. Students don't report being more included or welcome at those institutions.
Yeah, so exactly what is their role if they're not actually, these positions aren't actually accomplishing the goals that they're setting out to achieve?
So I think to some extent there is a patronage, self-perpetuating bureaucracy here. So people are just getting jobs and hiring more people into jobs. So just bureaucratic bloat, which is a problem across the university in general, but in particular in this area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I think another thing that's going on is that various noisy student groups and outside political constituents put pressure on universities, and they try to respond to those pressures by devoting staff with fancy-sounding titles to address those problems. But it doesn't mean the problems are addressed. It just means that they're wasting money in the name of that goal. So they're essentially setting money on fire to try to prove their devotion to these particular goals.
Gosh, well, is there a way that we can tell if our taxpayer dollars at these public institutions are going directly to pay some of these positions?
Well, you can't so easily trace the exact dollars, but it is certainly the case that public dollars are going. Virtually all of these institutions are public institutions that we looked at, so they're receiving state appropriations. All of the universities, public and private, receive federal subsidies, and in general, we found that the universities with more money, larger research budgets, had much larger diversity staff. So, in other words, when more money is sloshing around, this is one of the things that universities will devote that extra money to.
Now, lastly, could states that are strapped for cash, maybe not as well off, use the money that is going towards these DEE positions by placing it elsewhere?
Well, I think one of the best things a university could do to be more inclusive and welcoming and improve diversity is to lower its costs. And one of the ways they could do that is by cutting back on the staff and make more money available for scholarships, lower tuition. And I think there's good reason to believe that's a much more effective strategy for being welcoming and diverse than by hiring a ton of people with very fancy sounding titles.
I totally agree. Thank you so much for joining us today, giving us your expertise on this subject. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.